The Philadelphia 76ers have gotten off to as badly a start as anyone could think, dropping to 3-13 on the season and seeing just 6 total minutes played between the three stars with Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Paul George. With the season already on the brink of disaster, many fans are speculating that the attention should be turned to tanking the season and focusing on entering the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. I want to break down whether or not there is any possibility of this happening, the legitimacy of this plan working out in the long haul, and if we may just be on the brink of disaster here in Philadelphia. Now, to dive exactly into it, I do want to start by acknowledging that these Sixers are 3-13, and isn't this picture awfully poetic here of Joel Embiid laying on the ground, struggling to get up, Jared McCain and Tyrese Maxey pulling him up, and you can see kind of the grit in Jared McCain's face to make this happen here. This pretty much sums up what we're seeing from the Sixers season so far, and that is kind of the biggest area of concern, is what is that level of the health with the big fella there. This entire team, this entire thought process of this being a true championship contender is fully dependent on your MVP being capable of playing to the level that you expect to be the case. If his health is a legitimate issue or there isn't a pathway to it improving, because let's not forget, not only has he played just four games this season, he was unable to start the season, missed the first 9 games there. He finally had his best game of the season. And in those 4 games, I would classify it as he's played one good game, that being against the Memphis Grizzlies, in which he went for 35-11, 2 fine games, and 1 bad game, which was his first game there. So what I guess is concerning to me is after that good game in which Nick Nurse said he exerted more energy based on their metrics in any single game since the surgery, that even including the playoffs. What happened then? The knee swelled up and he's out for 2 games right after it. That is not a great look here. That is not a great thought process. And why I struggle to get on the pathway of tanking things is it's not going to get it better next year. That this is just the Joel Embiid situation. If you want to have a crack at this with Joel Embiid as one of the centerpieces of this team, it's got to happen as soon as possible. Now, if you're completely out on that, I get it. But to talk about the legitimacy of this happening this year, let's first dive into Legion Hoops here, which I disagree with this calculation and do want to dive into why, but saying there's a 4.2% chance of this Sixers team making the playoffs here. Now, to dive into the standings and pull it up here, Sixers currently sitting at 14th place, just ahead of the Washington Wizards, who have lost 11 straight games coming into here, and it took those losses for the Sixers to leapfrog them in the standings. But they sit at 3-13. Does it look brutal? Absolutely. But what I want to point out here is looking at the Eastern Conference. Look down that line. That yes, the Cavaliers are 17-1. Yes, the Boston Celtics are 14-3. The Magic off to a strong start at 11-7 there, and doing things without Paolo. So shout out to Franz Wagner and the squad for hooping up over there. Then it is the New York Knicks at the 4th seed with a 9-7 record. The Miami Heat at the 5th seed with a 7-7 record, and then the Milwaukee Bucks sitting right below them there. To kind of put this into perspective here, just taking a look at the standings, the Heat in that 5th seed are 8 games out of first place. The Sixers in that 14th seed, 13.5. We're talking about 5.5 games out of 5th place in the Eastern Conference. Just to get in the play-in, if you want to look at that right now, the 10th seed being the absolute worst case scenario there, that is currently the Chicago Bulls that are 10 games out of first place there. The Sixers are 13 there. So kind of talking about things, that is a 3-game difference. This team is not that far off, and there's a lot of season left to play. Now, is that to say that I've been encouraged by what I've seen on the field or on the court there? Is it encouraging that we've seen the product of the Sixers basketball team? Absolutely not. It has been as dreadful as one could imagine. They got laughed off the floor by the Clippers last night. Weren't competitive in that game from start to finish. That we see the limitations when there is this clear-cut focus on avoiding Jared McCain having the ball and Tyrese Maxey trying to play through guys like Chris Dunn, who is an absolute demon on the perimeter there. This Sixers team is limited. There's no doubt about it. There's reason to be completely out on this team. I think you can make a case that some of the veterans, the Eric Gordons of the world, have absolutely quit on this team already, that their expectation was to walk into a real deal contender, and I can't even fully blame them for being disappointed on what the state of the team is, because it is a disaster right now. And I will also say, it's not my place to fully report on some of this stuff yet, but I'm starting to hear more and more of the behind the scenes of this, and all I will say to this point is it feels like the beginning of the end, and I can guarantee there will be one of those long leaked articles with all the disasters behind the scenes in the Sixers organization that will be coming at the end of this year. I can guarantee that because there's a lot of material stacking up and stuff that I think will be brought to light pretty soon here. Now, as far as the Sixers outlook, I do want to talk about the odds of Cooper Flag. Does it look awesome to see him in a Sixers uniform? Is he a unique talent that probably is worth sacrificing a season for? I'm not going to dispute any of that. Where I will kind of push back here is I don't see a pathway to it happening. The reason that I say that is as bad as I'm talking about the East is, Do you think the Sixers can actually be the worst team out of this mix here? And looking at the standings once again, do you think they can be worse than the Wizards or have a better lottery chance there? You think even if they were not to bring Joel Embiid back and roll out the team that they currently have, that they can produce a worse record than the Toronto Raptors, who are a fun team to watch, by the way? I've enjoyed seeing them compete this year. I still think the Sixers have a pretty strong chance of ending up better than the Hornets, better than the Pistons, even the Bulls. The Brooklyn Nets, I think, will cool off. There are a lot of bad teams in this Eastern Conference, which is where my doubts come in. And to get it out of the way exactly here, the Sixers draft pick situation, they have a top 5 protected pick. What that means is, or if a top 6 protected pick, excuse me. If that pick falls in the top 6 here, it is the Sixers draft pick. If it falls out of it, it is the Oklahoma City Thunder's possession there. And by the way, that exact swap there happened all the way back when they were offloading Al Horford due to that failed attempt at making that work with that team. And if you need another reason to hate Al Horford, there it is. And I do not want history to misremember how bad he was during his Sixers tenure. That was an Al Horford thing. The man did not care whatsoever that he was here. I never saw him give remote effort. And Al Horford was benched for Furkan Korkmaz in a playoff series, and the Sixers got better. I don't want history to misremember that. Yes, the Sixers messed a lot up. That was an Al Horford's fault thing, and I want that to be clear here. Now, as far as the lottery odds as a whole, they want to pull up exactly how that worked here. So pulling up the exact odds for the lottery, that we do know, obviously, the worst teams get the best chance at it. The top 3 teams with bad records each have 14% chances at the 1 seed. The 4th worst team, 12.5%. The 5th worst team, 10.5%. 6th worst, 9%, and so on and so forth. Now, there is also these limitations for if you are the worst seed, you can't drop below a certain pick, etc., etc. And to pull up the odds of the Sixers keeping their pick here, shout out to Adam Aronson, Sixers Adam of the Philly Voice here, who broke this down. If they were to finish with the worst or second worst odds or record in the league here, you would have a 100% chance of keeping your draft pick. Third drops to 93, then 81.1% for the 4th worst here. 5th at 64, 6th at 45.8%. And this is really the window of if things were to go to absolute disaster, kind of where I see the Sixers fitting in. That I don't see a world where they drop all the way to a worst or second worst team in the league. I think even as bad as it has looked, that you roll out a team with McCain and Maxey on an every night basis, you're going to stumble into some wins there. I don't see a world where they drop that low. So I guess the calculation becomes, do you think there is a greater chance of you landing a top pick or holding your first-round pick and adding a guy that could be a key contributor? Because I understand it is not just Cooper Flag in this draft. Ace Bailey getting plenty of attention. The Rutgers guys are absolutely hooping up down there. There's a number of talents that could be added to this roster. But is there a greater chance of you stumbling upon one of them and then you beginning to build with a Maxey, McCain, and player A that you snag in this draft here? Or is there a better chance of at least having a chance at the playoffs, getting into play and scrapping out and, having an opportunity to win here? Unfortunately, I lean towards the latter. As much as I would love to be in on a tank, I think particularly in Daryl Morey's mind, he's going to run those numbers and think, we've seen this team scrap out of the play-in before. We've seen this team. We know what the potential of this team is. Look at all the opportunity that this team has. It is far too small of a sample size to judge this as a failure. Again, there has been 6 minutes played together with Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, and Joel Embiid on the floor together. There is still a world where this all clicks and all works if it comes together. Am I optimistic about that? Absolutely not. I'm as down on the Sixers team as I've been all season. I have been the voice of reason of it's going to be fine. They're going to find a way for most of this year. I don't see it right now. I really don't. I think there needs to be some real deal look in the mirror changes. I think everybody is to blame for this. I think you go down the line, every single guy deserves to have their finger pointed at them to an extent. From Joel Embiid at the top, Nick Nurse certainly in the mix here, Daryl Morey, we're seeing the limitations of this team. The veterans clearly not looking like they're ready to help carry this thing, and obviously the results are the results. 3-13 is 3-13. But I do think in Morey's brain, that as he runs those numbers, as he makes those calculations, the thought that is always in his head, or that he's been on record saying in years past, is if you have a 5% or greater chance of winning the championship, you should go all in this year. That there is enough, variance in the sport of basketball that you have an opportunity. I still think Morey's going to look at things and think that team kind of have a chance. Again, look at the standings once again. Who scares you in the Eastern Conference? For me, it is basically only the Boston Celtics, that I still think the New York Knicks, while they've been impressive lately, have their limitations. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they can win 75 regular season games for all I care, and I will still think there's an opportunity there in the playoffs for whoever gets them in the first round. The Miami Heat have not stood out to me, and I think guys like Bam Adebayo have certainly taken a step back. The Bucks are vulnerable. The point being that each of these teams have weaknesses as well. So if the Sixers team can catch a hot streak, if they can climb to at least have a ticket into the dance, get into the playoffs and have an opportunity, I think that is the route that Daryl Morey would prefer. And that is especially the case as things seem to be spiraling. When things spiral, jobs are at stake, fingers are being pointed, and the best cure to all that is just winning. So while winning is the best medicine, the Sixers' prescription is getting pretty deep there, that it's going to be a pretty hefty dose that is necessary to cure things here. So we'll see how things shake out from here. But I think unless they absolutely bottom out over this next stretch and struggle to win any games, I basically find like no world in which this becomes a lost season. It's a different conversation for whether it's the right move. I think you can make a strong argument for that being the case. But I think the accurate breakdown of this is that I don't see Daryl Morey ever pulling the trigger. That does not seem to be his nature. So we'll see how things shake out from here. But unfortunately, my level of optimism for Cooper Flagg becoming a member of the Sixers is about 0 at this point. Maybe I'll be wrong. We'll see how the next couple weeks play out. Things are about as bleak as have been in the Sixers era, not just this season, not just during the Joel Embiid period of time that he has played. It is rough right now, but the only way is to continue through it. The season is progressing whether the Sixers are ready or not, so hopefully they'll be back in action and getting some back in the win column there. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Am I underselling the opportunity to go get Cooper Flagg? Is he more special talent than giving him credit? I don't think he's quite the Victor Wembanyama tier, but I do think he is the certified should be number 1 pick type talent there. I like Cooper Flagg. Don't take it that way, but ultimately we will see what the Sixers team has in store for all of us. Appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning into this video here. Make sure you drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and any comments you have below. I'll be back talking to you next time. Peace.